to Doxxed, the podcast.
All right. So,
Are we
update.
gonna release the first half of the season because we've been found out?
I feel like we should because, well, for one, we're prepared. I feel like we're very well prepared. It wasn't completely out of the realm of possibility that this would happen. But part of me is like giddy that it did, that Allie found us out because she cannot contain herself. She can't help but to promote it.
That's one way to put it.
One thing that really makes my blood boil now that I'm out of fear, I'm out of anxiety, I'm out of survival mode, and I can look at the situation for what it is and look at her for who she is and what she is. It makes my blood boil that she feels so entitled to take up all the space, and she has the audacity to make it seem as though no one else is allowed to process their lived experiences with her. No one else is allowed to talk about how they feel. No one else is allowed to move on how they want to. No one else is allowed to say anything. And no matter how you slice it, if you respond directly to her insults and her bullying, you're a bully and you're insulting her. If you stay quiet, in her eyes, it's a sign of weakness and some kind of unspoken admission of guilt. And it's a win for her and she'll gloat about it. And it's like, if you say something, you're bullying her. If you don't say anything, you're also bullying her. But if you process it, somehow that still has something to do with her too. And no more. That's not happening anymore. She doesn't get to take control of my story. She doesn't get to dictate how I process this, what I talk about, how I talk about it, who I talk about it with. She doesn't get any say in that. She wants so badly to be the main character in everyone's story. And unfortunately, sadly for her, she doesn't get to be the main character in my story. Absolutely not.
Good.
She doesn't get to take up any space on this podcast, on our social media. I'm so tired of her bullshit. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I think the thing that speaks the loudest is that none of our promotional stuff for this had her name on it. So all she knows at this time is that you are doing a new podcast type project that surrounds a doxing experience.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's assuming that that's going to be really bad for her enough to try to quash it and put us down for the project being terrible when all she knows is what the logo looks like right now and the idea that we're going to talk about doxing, I think that just speaks volumes because it's like there's absolutely nothing anybody could do that isn't going to be attacked.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no idea why we wouldn't just do whatever we want to do.
Yeah. And the story that she made this morning, it was it's a direct attack towards me. And again, with the made up stuff, just talking just to talk, just making things up just to be hurtful, just to send people my way to be harmful towards me and to try to weaken the impact of the project that we're doing. And she said that I doxed her whole family. What? That never happened.
That never happened.
She said I made a whole mess in the Reddit, doxing her whole family and putting her in danger. That never happened. And the great thing about Reddit is that you can see my entire Reddit history in my profile. Everything I've ever posted, everything I've ever commented. It's already been proven someone was impersonating me on Reddit. Like, what are you talking about, girl?
Yeah, I don't even know how that leapt from her showing her own family and putting her own full name everywhere to anyone who ever talked about her doxing her family. What was even doxed? I have never heard of this story.
Nothing.
I even checked with our
This
friend,
is the first time I've
Shadow.
ever heard that I doxed her.
Yeah, I even checked with our friend Shadow, who was also laughing about the idea that she had ever been doxed. And that's another person who followed this very closely. There was nothing like that that ever happened. It's completely out of the blue.
Nothing, like no one did anything as far as I know. It certainly wasn't me. And in her latest tirade against me this morning, she blamed me for the trademarks, knowing damn well that had nothing to do with me. Like she's regressed from knowing some facts about what happened, knowing exactly who was behind the trademarks. And now all of a sudden, now we're back to it was all me. I was the mastermind and I did the trademarks and took all her work. What?
I was going to say, it does sound a lot like, it feels a lot like early on because there was that whole time when she was just spinning, and every single day you would wake up and you would be like, what's the new thing that, somebody's going to have to scramble to defend themselves? And it's just always nonsense. And I think that, I don't know, it hasn't felt like that recently because she keeps getting her accounts keep dying within like a day.
Yeah.
And uh, this is just, I don't know. I think it is kind of funny that she wants to talk about it because if I was her, I wouldn't, because it just seems like it only helps us. So you don't even know what it is yet. So why give
But
it
she
more
knows it's
gas?
all about her. Like, we haven't posted anything.
No, yeah.
We have a logo.
Why does everything have to be about these people?
And one of the funny things she said was Jubilee's going to be your only listener. But then if you look at our follow list on Instagram, our ghost page, because there's nothing on it, we have one single follower. And guess who that is?
It's Allie.
Allie. And
Our
guess who
biggest
our first listener will
our
be?
our biggest
Wild
fan.
guess.
Someone who hopefully will pay for the content. And you know what? If anyone's going to act like it's a problem to put things behind a paywall, just get out of here with the level of attention to detail and energy we have put into this project and the level of love and care that we have been putting into this over the last few weeks. I think we have both poured our hearts and souls into it. And so I'm not going to take any shit about considering this a real project that deserves to be funded.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone gets to give anyone shit about it.
No, and I've been getting shit for months for earning a living doing absolutely anything. My
Yeah.
books have been shit on, my podcast has been shit on. They're starting on this one, and I'm going to earn whatever I'm going to earn, however I want to earn it. And just because it's me, just because it's you, doesn't mean it's a scam. And you know how you don't get scammed? Don't listen, don't pay. It's that simple. If you
Yeah,
don't want to be scammed by me, leave me the fuck alone. How about that? Don't consume
it's
my
not a
content if you
scam.
don't want to be scammed.
The most ridiculous thing in the world is to accuse you of plagiarizing or AI writing your book when
Well, it has to be one or the other,
it's
right?
all about
Like,
your experience. No, it's a humble AI writer that was a first generation American and Seventh-day Adventist telling their story, that you appropriated the AI writer's story.
oh my God, it's so offensive
It
for her
is.
to say this podcast is such a slap in the face. All she does is slap in the face. And it's so offensive for her to continually say my books are copied and pasted, plagiarized, and AI generated. It's all of those things. It's just so offensive. First it was I copied her book idea, I plagiarized from her, and now I'm plagiarizing from AI and copying the poor humble AI's story. Like, get it together. Like, form a thought, really.
I do feel bad for that AI though, taken advantage of. Yeah,
It
no,
just
it's deeply offensive. I hope that we can get some eyes on this project that are beyond this initial situation, that can just recognize the common sense of what's in front of them, that this is a horrific abuse of people, and it's, I mean, horrifically racist,
mhm.
horrifically traumatizing for marginalized people,
Yeah.
especially
Mhm.
because of her behavior, which is incessant. I hope people can just see it. I hope that, when you get your nose out of the niche drama of this, it's a
Mhm.
broader human rights story. It's just a story of gross injustice that is
And let
on.
me just clear something up. Docs the podcast is not a rebrand of anything. It is its own new thing. It's a new project. It's a combined effort between you and I. It's heart and soul, and it's something that I'm proud of. Unfortunately, the description of my experience of Allie, it's not going to sound great. So if she wants to call that a smear campaign, she's welcome to say that because she's entitled to her opinion just as much as I am. But it's not a rebrand. I still have my own podcast. I've definitely stepped away from it to focus on this because this takes priority right now, but it is not a rebrand, not by any means. I sacrificed my TikTok account because I want us to have a leg up with our social media. That's all that is. I still have another TikTok, and I'm so thankful to have a new personal TikTok that not an inch of this is in that algorithm. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. If she wants to call it a smear campaign, she can, but she can't do it legally because absolutely none of this, what we're doing here, is a lie. Not a single word of the entire thing is a lie. It's all true. It's all backed in receipts, whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
say. It's deeply based in documented truth.
Mm-hmm.
So that protects you in a court of law. You can't sue people and come after them or take their stuff down when they're not saying things.
And that's not just for Allie. That's a message for anyone else that wants to try to be intimidating or threatening to try to silence us further. There are no legal cases based on pure hearsay. If you want to waste your money on attorneys and court fees, that's fine, but it would not be wise to do it because guess what? The people that have been the most quiet in this situation are people that do their research and fact check things and look up the definitions of things. And there is no more being scared into silence because someone throws around legal terms. That's not how this works anymore.
Here, here. So, do we want to get down to the meat of the episode?
Feminine rage,
Yes.
anger, her. Yes.
Oh, ooh, spicy.
Wow. So bad.
True though. I've been so mad too. I have therapy every week and I talked to my therapist this week and just like raged my head off. And at the end, somewhere toward then, I was like, I'm just mad. I'm just in a bad mood. I'm angry. And she was like, I can tell. But I think I think she was supportive because it's important. It's important to have catharsis about things. It's super healthy. It's powerful. And fuck all of you. I'm not doing this anymore.
Honestly,
I'm not doing this
honestly,
anymore.
I'm so mad. I've been so mad this whole time. And one thing that really sucks about being marginalized in this particular way, because I'm going to pull the race card because it matters. My race matters in this. Being the only Black woman in this whole thing, I feel like I'm not allowed to be angry because it's perceived differently if I show anger. It's perceived as a threat for me to experience my full range of emotions. I'm hyper masculinized in this situation. And so I'm so sick of being beaten down into silence and having to stay quiet and watch my words. And if I say something in a certain tone, it's going to be taken as angry Black woman. But then if I'm calm, cool, and collected, that's also seen as a threat too. And it's called creepy and psychotic and sociopathic. It's not even about, I want to say, oh, I can't win no matter what. But no, it's not even about winning. It's just about being allowed to be human, and the experience of being angry as a woman in this society, like no matter how you slice it, no matter how you present with your white, black, brown, whatever, feminine rage is something that is like not allowed. It's like we're not allowed to be angry. And I know that's an experience for white women that's different, but for Black women, we're perceived as angry no matter what. Anxiety, fear, sadness, depression, grief, it's all taken as anger. But now I am pissed off. And as Allie loves to say, I get to be angry, okay? I get to be angry, okay? Like, yeah, so does everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, especially you get to be angry. You were actually lied about, impersonated, defamed, ostracized, scapegoated, tokenized, like some of the most disgusting things. And it's provable. It's all there. You have every right to be angry. It's an infuriating situation. And the fact that it's ongoing and the fact that this moving of the goalposts where nothing will stop it unless we're kissing our toes and groveling and apologizing. No one's going to do that. No one's
No,
doing
I'm
that.
sorry for anything. I wanted to apologize to one person. That was you. I did that. I'm done. I have nothing else to be sorry for at all.
And it's like a trigger mechanism of society. I really believe that. I think it's all put in place to make you feel like you shouldn't do it because it's so powerful.
It is powerful. And it's healing, I think, to allow yourself to be angry. I feel like anger is an important emotion to allow yourself to feel and move through. Suppressing anger doesn't help anyone. It's like cancer in your body. If you let it fester in your belly, it's not good.
Mm.
Anger is something I think that should be worked through and expressed and talked through. And it's just really unfortunate that men seem to be completely permitted in every way to show anger and rage however they want to, and it's fine. But I feel like for women, the expectation is that anger is unbecoming and it's prettier, it's cuter to cry your way through things. It's more acceptable to cry. And also with female tears, it's often seen as a manipulation when crying is the only acceptable thing to do in society as a woman. If you use tears for everything, it's seen as a manipulation. But if we could just be authentic in our full range of emotions and accept each other for where we're at when we're there, I think the society could just be a lot better for everyone. But it's not allowed. Anger's not allowed for women. It's not cute. It's not sexy. It's not attractive. It's unbecoming to feel rage and to feel anger and express it.
Yeah, I think it's threatening, right?
Hmm.
I wanted to bring up an article that I always have read some article about everything, I guess, but I have one for this, and it's called Madness and the Irrational in the Work of Andre Breton by Bethany Latimer. And it talks about surrealism and how they had this, there's a kind of a philosophy around it, and they had a goal of trying to liberate the psyche, and that for them, this goal was symbolized by women's values because they were seen as contrary to dominant social values. So surrealists would appropriate the feminine really commonly, and they believed in this kind of like mystical or divine quality of monogamous love from a woman. But there's this contradiction there because the men's approach to femininity is antithetical to the notion of woman as a means of cultural change or liberation because it strengthens patriarchal structures. So, in other words, surrealists, and I think this is going to apply in general, it's like a case study. They were trying to use women and otherness to get at some kind of freedom, but they're trying to control women in the process. So they kind of sabotage themselves. I think all of this is about trying to control women and other people because it's actually really liberating when we stand in our power. And that's just devastating for the system. So you get all this pushback. And one form that can really, really commonly take is calling us crazy or hysterical. And this whole thing about spiritual psychosis reminds me a lot of that. This entire conversation around spiritual psychosis reads to me as a form of dismissing feminine things as crazy. And she also talks about in the article that there's like a dichotomy between madness as threatening and then irrationality, which is like fascinating or safe. So women can kind of function like a mirror and refer back to men. And then they're like, oh, you're just irrational. And then we're just kind of safe. But if we really don't conform, we become like mad or insane instead. And so society just like defines us that way basically because we don't conform to it. So I think it's like a trap where we all can't escape self-destruction without society just reacting by trying to destroy us.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that's been probably since the beginning of time trying to destroy women. It's always been a thing. It's always been a thing to try and tamp women down and to keep women contained and controlled and like trying to herd us like sheep somewhere, expecting us to behave like sheep.
Yeah.
The more you think about it, like this centuries long global effort to control women, it's got to be because there's power there. It's got to be because we have power. You don't try to control something that bad if they're weak or mild or harmless. You do that because you don't want the subject that you're trying to control. You don't want them to know that they're powerful. You don't want them to rise up because it would be devastating if they did.
Yeah. I have the perfect other quote by Audre Lorde that supports what you're saying. As women, we have come to distrust that power which rises from our deepest and non-rational knowledge. We have been warned against it all our lives by the male world. which values this depth of feeling enough to keep women around in order to exercise it in the service of men, but which fears this same depth too much to examine the possibility of it within themselves. So women are maintained at a distant or inferior position to be psychically milked, much the same way ants maintain colonies of aphids to provide a life-giving substance for their masters. And that's from Your Silence Will Not Protect You. But that's exactly what it is. It's like the whole patriarchal world wants to keep us around because we're useful. But it's also scary to them that we're that powerful enough to be useful. So they trick us into thinking we have to be this service animal, basically. And by patriarchal world, I think this is
Yeah.
a common misunderstanding. I don't mean men. I think the way the world is designed really decenters everybody in some way. Everybody's getting the raw end of the deal. But the closer you are to the centered things, the more society tricks you into trying to defend them and thinking that you're not getting the raw end of the deal. You still are. You still could have a better thing if we talked about these
Mm-hmm.
things. I think that's important.
I think women's emotional burden, emotional labor, our capacity to hold space for other people's emotions, I think that's something that's way undervalued and way underappreciated. But at the same time, I do believe that the feminine in all of us, like we are the keepers of emotions, I feel. We're the nurturers of emotions. It's such an essential part of the human experience and such an essential part of quality of life for people is being able to regulate your emotions, to co-regulate with other people, to talk things out with people, to know that someone cares about you and loves you and will hear you and see you and like support you. And the feminine in all of us is what does that. I say all this to say, because we had a conversation a while back. Well, if we talk every day, who even knows what like time, it's like a time warp when we talk. But I think I had mentioned like we were talking about sexuality and I was talking about how I never have been in a relationship with a woman because it scares me the thought of being in a romantic relationship with a woman because I've had my heart broken a bazillion times by men, but no one has ever broken my heart more deeply and more thoroughly than like a female friend. I can't even imagine what it was for like a female love
Yeah.
to hurt me. And I think that's because when a man breaks your heart, yeah, it hurts, it cuts deep, but in my experience, no man has ever really gotten to know me to my core. So they don't cut me to my core. It hurts, I get over it, I move on.
Yeah.
Women from my past have hurt me. They knew me to my core. The emotional intimacy that I've had with my platonic female friends doesn't even compare to years long relationships I've been in where I've been engaged. I think women's capacity to manage emotions and I want to say manipulate emotions. I feel like we can be masters of emotions, period. So even though we can help people heal and we can be catalysts for healing for one another, we can help each other heal in really big ways. We can hurt really deeply. And I want to say that some of the most abusive situations that I've been involved in have been with other women.
Mm.
It's and it's something that people don't really talk about because the focus is usually on gender-based violence, usually men being violent towards women and the hostilities there. But no one's really talking about abuse among women, emotional abuse among women, cyberbullying among women. The
Mm.
times where I've been cyberbullied, it has always been women, particularly white women. Some of the most violent interactions I've ever been involved in have been with women, specifically white women.
That's interesting because for me, I think it's more the biggest pattern I notice is white gay men. So I wonder if it's like this thing where somebody that's like just above you in like the social hierarchy ladder feels like they need to kick down in order to keep their position or something, which is really gross to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if that's the pattern.
I mean, yeah, it can definitely be a sort of punching down. There could be, a power dynamic at play there. But that has definitely been my experience. And I don't know if people really take abuse among women as seriously
Mhm.
because of that whole, oh, women are just overly emotional. It's not that serious. They're just being dramatic. It's whatever. But it's never just whatever. It's never just petty and just drama when it's dealing with someone's mental health, when it's someone considering taking their own life because they're being abused so bad by their girlfriends or people that they thought were their girlfriends, or they're in a friend group and everyone just turns on them, or they have a friend group and didn't realize nobody actually liked them for the last year that they've been hanging out. And I only hear about that happening among women.
I think it can happen in to queer people who are not women too, but I think it is. I don't know. Maybe I don't have enough channels open with. I mean, especially not. I think the older I've gotten, the fewer just cis straight het white men I talk to regularly. So I don't think I have a good sense of what they're up to nowadays. But I do think that it's very under talked about because I think that anything about women is not taken seriously. And again, it ties into framing people as hysterical, and just writing off any kind of deep emotion as weakness rather than a site of power.
Mhm.
I do think it's under talked about.
That's a problem.
Well, and it's difficult too because I think everything always has to do with social power dynamics. Always. That framing things according to social power dynamics always reveals why something that doesn't seem to make sense makes sense. But I think
Mhm.
it's complicated when you're talking about people in different positions on the margins because it's everything always gets appropriated, especially as time goes on. So it starts off as a conversation that is among people who might be victims of, say, vengeful Karen white women and need to have a real conversation about the harm there. And then it becomes appropriated by people who are not harmed by white women, but just want to harm them because they're not exactly at the top of the ladder either. So it
Mm.
becomes, in turn, fun to tear them down. And suddenly you can be having very similar kinds of conversations, but for very, very different motivations. And I think things always kind of deteriorate into something that's not healing unless you're doing some kind of
Mhm.
action in the other direction. So I think that's one reason why it's difficult to have those conversations is because they can devolve quickly into just abusing women once again when there's a real conversation to be
Mhm.
had under there that's very important, that is about how white women are abusive. It just easily spirals into further harming anybody instead of ever listening to the people that actually needed to be listened to.
Right. I think there's something to be said for like internalized misogyny and proximity to power.
Mhm.
And yeah, there are just like terrible white women Karens on the internet that say and do horrible things and bully people online. We've experienced that for sure. But I don't know. Like how do you go about calling someone in and unpacking that and trying to take action towards actual change so that women can come together and not hurt each other in these really deep, awful ways?
I guess the best answer is like decolonizing, right? And not just thinking of it in one dimension of womanhood, but thinking of it in these other dimensions too. Because I think, you say, how do you call someone in? Who's you? You, me, you? Who's calling someone in? Because I think it's all about uh, a lot of factors, not just the womanness of it. Womanness encompasses a huge range of people that have kind of I think, decentralized, but some overlapping interests for sure.
Mhm.
But I think understanding community better seems to be really key. I think there's this great work Jubilee's doing about solution raising, one-on-one conversations, and I don't know. And I think different language for different things, but I think women do find spaces where they can figure out healing things together. I think conversations around like shadow work can be really healing.
Mm-hmm.
And one good way to think about, or therapy or emotional intelligence, starting to talk more about the value of women's work,
Mm-hmm.
emotional work, kin keeping. But I think that there's a lot of what is it, woman on woman abuse, or there's a lot of abuse in groups of female friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
A
I
lot.
think I think there can also be a lot of community and support, and there can be healthy relationships between women that are really uplifting and mutually empowering and supportive. Those can exist. So I think maybe even representing those for other people to see what the mechanisms of them can be like, how you could do a relationship like that successfully, how you could have good boundaries with friends. I think talking about these things and also just living them and having more representations of them because they exist. There's always been spaces, like little secret spaces carved out for the honoring of feminine things that have lasted through generations and generations, kind of just right under the surface of society. They don't have to be written down because we pass them down orally. We pass them down from mother to daughter. Things about how to keep the house, things about raising children, things about family. Those are like very valuable kinds of knowledge, and they're just missed and undervalued and not seen. But I think they're all there. I don't know. There's good with the bad, I think, and it's just a matter to me. I think it's just a matter of having those conversations and moving ourselves in a better direction. But yeah, I don't think it's ever been. I don't think it's ever been squashed. This kind of powerful thing survives in just secret places, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that kind of thing probably thrives in spaces where the goal and the intention is actual community and not competition. I feel like a lot of times young girls, young women are socialized to be in competition with one another.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
how do you create community like that? Like it would just be it would be inauthentic to try to create community when deep down your goal is to win something, win popularity, win the best of this or the best of that, win the guy, win the perfect highlight reel life for Instagram, for social media. Like I feel that's what kind of separates us. That's kind of what pulls us apart. I saw this really horrible, horrible take on TikTok the other day. It's made the rounds. You've probably seen it. But it's this woman sitting at a dinner table basically saying that if she sees a woman in trouble, if she sees a woman like really going through it, I'm not going to hand you a tissue. You're a big girl. I'll witness you go through it, but I'm not going to be there for you. You're a big girl. And it's viral on TikTok and I've seen so many people respond to it. And there was a black woman in particular that was like, "Mm-mm, that's not for us. That's not for black women. Rugged individualism's not the way. Women we were not meant
Yes.
to be alone. We were not meant to be on an island to just sit with our trauma by ourselves. It's not how we were built." And that's so true.
Exactly. It's because of this individualistic mindset. It creates the scarcity mindset about somebody having to win, as opposed to the idea that if you win, I win, because we're the same thing. That hyper individualism is all about whiteness, it's all about colonization. And you're exactly right. I think it's a big part of what creates that artificial sense of competitiveness and artificial sense of a need to kick people down so that you can stay where you're at, instead of just everybody rising up together, which I think it's absolutely possible. I do.
Yeah, I don't think we were ever supposed to just bootstrap it through every aspect of life. That's not how life is supposed to be, I
Well,
don't
that's not
think.
how it even works now. People just erase women's work. That's
Mm-hmm.
not even how it works. The idea that you can bootstrap it is because you just don't name all the women around you supporting giving birth to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah. We need community. We need space to exist in whatever it is that we're going through season to season. We need space to exist as we are, how we are, whatever we're going to grow into. we need the space to grow, to evolve, to learn new things, take in new information, to shed the old, to usher in the new. It all takes space and acceptance and allowance and support.
Yeah.
And even with this stupid situation with Allie, like let's say we weren't doing this project together and I I did rebrand and I did move on with my content. I spoke out again and took on new content and took on a new form on social media, I would have gotten the same exact response. There's
Yeah.
no room to grow and to move on. Like, why is society like this? And I know this is a small situation, but it's like, it's sort of a slice of the pie of what society is like and
Yeah, it's a
how
microcosm.
people are treated when they've gone through it. Whether you've made an actual mistake or whether you're the subject of a smear campaign, to reemerge, to come back to what it is you were doing, to try to change, grow, heal, move on. It's just you have someone with their fucking heel on your head.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's such a good point. No room to grow. And that's so essentially what makes us human, what makes humans thrive.
It's just so interesting to me remembering Allie say things like, "What's happening to me is, why so many people take their lives because
Yeah.
of cyberbullying. This is what makes people take their lives." And it's like, no one's doing anything to you anymore. You were a dangerous creator, so much so people took action to teach you a lesson and get you off the platform momentarily. She came right back, but she was terrible enough where people took direct action to change it, to neutralize her so that she couldn't hurt people at that level anymore.
Yeah.
But looking at how she behaved even today towards me, just poking my head out just a little bit with a logo, not even
Yeah, you
I haven't
didn't
posted
even
content in
post
forever.
anything. You didn't even post. Let's just talk for one second. You didn't even post anything.
There's
You
nothing
just
posted on any of our socials for
the
Docs the podcast.
logo. And she's acting like you did something horrible.
And I'm being bullied today. And she's had the nerve to say, "This is why people take their lives." Like, I am well aware. This situation put me right back in therapy, right back on antidepressants, right back on anti anxiety meds. Like, I'm well aware. But the fact that she saw a logo of us doing something different, like planning to drop this project, she's at it again, relentlessly bullying, laughing, pointing, "See this account, see that account," trying to do her same old thing. Send people our way, send people to Instagram, send people to the TikTok. Just start all of this up again.
No,
Yeah, this
it's
is
just
what
been
makes
going the
people
whole
take their
time.
lives.
Yeah.
She's right. That exactly what she's doing, that is what makes people take their lives. Yeah.
Yeah, she's putting my full name on there, my name that I don't use for anything around this project or my TikTok. She knows exactly what she's doing. She knows how awful it is, and it's
We never
undeniable.
we never held ourselves out as experts in any, like, we're not out here being mental health peer counselors, anti-therapy therapists. Like, we're not doing any of that. You know how many people have podcasts where they just process things with their friends and just share information that they learn and research and interpret things? People are allowed to do that without labeling themselves as an expert. We haven't done that. She saw a logo and said, "Oh, I guess they're just experts in everything now." Like, it's a logo. Calm down.
There wasn't even in any of there was zero promotional material mentioning her in any way whatsoever.
None.
There was nothing that that she would have any reason to assume that the whole thing was even about her. And too damn bad for the amount that this woman has lied about me. I was going through some of this footage because I've been making this mashup for our intro now, and it's just a good idea to catalog, I think. And one thing that I forgot that she did was that she accused all of us of sending her death threats, which Never happened. Did not
I
happen.
sure didn't do that. I
In
didn't.
no universe did that happen. No one did that to her. I didn't do that. You didn't do that. Carrie Ann didn't do that. Rosemary didn't do that. Absolutely nobody.
Absolutely not.
Jubilee didn't do that. Nobody did that. Nobody sent you death threats.
Queen of
Nobody sent your
receipts, where are
phones.
they? She loves to call herself the queen of receipts. Where are the receipts for that?
That's nonsense. Nobody did that. So that's a lie. And don't go. And then, so that's just, that's down because we got it down. But she didn't take it down. She said she would take things down and apologize. She didn't do that. She just lied and then never took any step back to say, never took any correction of any of this horrible actual defamation and actual slander. Actual lies.
Yeah.
Lies.
Actual
There's another
lies.
clip in those clips. I'm sure we'll talk about it when we listen to it, because I'm almost done with it. But there's another clip in there where she just straight up diagnoses me with narcissism. So don't ever get on your high horse about how people are saying you are or aren't autistic, or you are or aren't narcissistic. You have nothing to say. And by the way, I've never diagnosed her with anything. I've never undiagnosed her with autism. I know that you have different feelings about that than me, but
I do.
she has diagnosed me with narcissism, and she's diagnosed other people with autism who multiple experts said didn't have it. So that's absurd. You don't get to talk anymore. You don't get to have it both ways.
Mm-hmm.
You've shown your full ass. You can't just go around saying these things and expect that it doesn't matter the next second when the complete opposite is convenient for you to think as if you said it the whole time.
Yeah. And I don't mind being the villain in her story, but what I'm not going to do is be quiet anymore at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And also, I don't think any of us has a choice about who's the villain in anyone's story. Nobody has a choice about this. I really think people seem to villainize both of everyone's autism. Everyone that is autistic is getting villainized.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone at some point who is autistic has been falsely accused of being some kind of sociopathic mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting old. Not only is it offensive, not only is it ableist, as everyone hates when I say, it's getting old.
Mm-hmm.
It's contrived at this point. Stop everyone assuming all the time that I'm lying about my autism and that also I'm a secret narcissist sociopath, when everything I've done and said is the exact opposite. I obviously I care about people. Shame on people acting like I don't have humanity because of my tone of voice. It's such a pattern. It's ableist when every single autistic person in the whole situation is getting accused of being evil.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think one of the most amazing things about the situation is that because TikTok created that weird little moment of TikTok autism, then we all got pushed into a space where there was actually like a density of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of what it takes to change the world, is you get kind of a density of people. I think that's similar to Jubilee's idea of getting a certain number of people to go after a certain goal.
Yeah.
I would call it a density. And it's like we got into this situation where there's autistic people for the first time, enough people that then it kind of just worked in spite of everybody trying to put us down.
Mm-hmm.
Put us down all the time, try to break us apart, divide us, make us feel like we can't trust each other, make us feel like we're all evil and terrible and everything we say is wrong, everything we say is suspect. Get out of here. I've worked for so long, like, get out of here. I've been an artist for 10 years. I have every goddamn right to be on TikTok saying whatever I want to say. I live in America. I understand there are consequences. The consequences should not be that someone is allowed to continuously lie about me for months.
Yeah.
The platform is wrong for not taking care of that. And in the meantime, no one gets to have anything to say about whatever this podcast is. Shame on all of you for thinking that we don't deserve to be here.
Are you tired of feeling unsafe online? Do you want to learn how to protect yourself from cyberbullying, doxing, and other forms of online harassment? Then look no further than Doxxed the podcast. Visit the website doxxedthepodcast.com to sign up for the Doxxed free ebook full of helpful tips and resources for online safety. Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive the weekly newsletter with the latest updates on upcoming content. There are many ways to connect with Doxxed, including Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Discord. Have a story to share or feedback to give? Use the contact form on the site to reach out or leave a voice message to be featured on the show. And for exclusive content, subscribe to the Doxxed Supercast to gain access to the private podcast feed with member-only exclusives. Take control of your online safety and join the Doxxed community today.
Yeah, the level of manipulation that's already happening, we haven't even published anything yet. As of today, April 7th, we haven't even published anything yet. And the manipulation that's already happening, the lies that are already being told about this podcast from not just Allie, by the way, I'll leave that at that, but it's wild that people can just make shit up, expect that everyone believes it, and no one gets to say anything to the contrary. In what world is that how any of this works?
In what
That's
world?
not how any of this works, and I'll be damned if I'm going to be silenced again.
I'm in the same boat as you. I'm feeling sick of it. My entire life I've been sick of it. I was born into this world knowing something was not okay about what we leave lie every day. And I finally am able to survive in spite of this crap. And I don't think a lot of people are. And so too bad for all of you who don't want us to say anything.
And what are they so afraid of? Why so threatened by two awful, evil, useless, harmless, whatever people that they want to call us? Why so threatened by us speaking?
Jealous.
Must be. And to hear Allie say so many different times, I'm never gonna stop. I can keep at this for years. How sad for you. You can't even keep your TikTok up for more than a couple of days. You're going to be at this for years. How sad for you.
Well, and I also think she means sometimes, in that interchangeable words way, that she cares about her project of trying to help people get out of spiritual psychosis. But I want to return to that idea of spiritual psychosis because it really is, it's so dangerous, I think, because it's not in the DSM-5. It's not a thing. Psychosis is a thing. And I really think it's dangerous to misdirect the causes for someone's psychosis and attribute it to just their spiritual beliefs, as opposed to whatever factors, which commonly could include things like bullying, cyberbullying, or interpersonal things like that. Very, very dangerous.
Psychosis has a myriad of causes, so many different causes. And by the way, me, the scammer, I put together a whole live event talking about this in depth. And I know she's going to say, and other people are going to say, you don't have any authority to talk on psychosis. Well, Allie talks about psychosis all the time. So I'm going to do my research and interpret that research and talk about psychosis. If you don't believe me, go see a doctor. I really don't care what people think about me talking about this. But psychosis has a bunch of different causes. It can be drug use. It can be trauma. It can be just a sudden change in your reality. It can be a sudden change in consciousness, like believing something and then suddenly seeing that that thing's not true. It has so many different causes. And if you are a spiritual person or you're practicing some sort of spiritual practice when you have a psychotic break, it doesn't mean that your spirituality caused that at all.
No. And it's so dangerous. And if you don't have what authority does Allie have, and what authority has she ever had to talk about people's mental health other than having the experience supposedly? But again, I think I've said this on other episodes, it bothers the hell out of me that she spent so long and still does talk about how I had spiritual psychosis and I'm like the poster boy for spiritual psychosis, only to also privately message me, have you ever had psychosis? No, then you don't get to talk about it. Like If I'm being diagnosed by her with spiritual psychosis, why wouldn't I be the expert in psychosis and talking about it? This
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't. And let me put it like this. If she gets to talk about whatever she wants to talk about, we get to talk about whatever we want to talk about, and people can do their own research. I'm not going to be told that I don't have the credentials in something, so I'm not allowed to talk about it. That's bullshit. We can all talk about whatever we want. We can put disclaimers. Obviously, do your own research, but I'm tired of like the played out, you don't have credentials. Like, fuck all of you, honestly.
Yeah. What's the thing the psychics put under their tags in for entertainment purposes only?
For entertainment purposes only.
Have some discernment.
Yeah. And if you don't have great discernment, do the work and do your
Do the work.
research.
Do the work.
It's so upsetting that she spent so much time on TikTok atop a huge platform bullying people for being in what she diagnosed them as psychotic. If you believe someone is psychotic, you're not doing anyone any favors. You don't have some noble mission by bullying them for it. There is no mental health diagnosis out there that is cured with abuse. None.
Yeah.
If you believe you have encountered someone that is in a psychotic state, bullying them is not the way to de-escalate it.
Not the way to go. Very dangerous, actually.
Extremely dangerous. If you have a loved one that you believe is experiencing psychosis and you don't know what to do, either don't interact with them at all, try to get them professional help. And if you don't have access to that, show compassion. They're not in control of their thoughts in that moment. They're not okay in that moment. They're not going to understand bullying and shaming and confrontation in that moment. They need compassion and patience. They need someone that they can talk to, even if they're not making sense, even if what they're saying is really disjointed and nonsensical. Just someone that can just listen. That helps to sort of ground them just a little bit until they can get professional help. Making a million TikToks about them and shaming them publicly, that's not how you do it. And I don't understand how Allie could have grown a platform to the size that she did, standing 10 toes down on what she was doing was helping people. She wasn't helping anyone. Making a spectacle about someone that she believes was in a psychotic state. How do you watch that and say, oh, she's doing good in the world? No. What is wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what audience members were hyping her up with all those comments about how she saved their lives, but
If her abusing people is what saved your life, I mean, I'm glad you're still alive. Maybe do better now that you're in a better place.
we do better now.
Maybe grow and evolve from where you're at. Glad you're still here, though. Amen.
That's the hard truth.
I'm so angry.
I think that's called for completely.
I know we said in a previous episode, we talked about silencing and the harm in being silence versus choosing silence. And I don't know, I feel like there's a really fine line, and you're going to sort of waffle back and forth when you're angry. There is a time to be quiet when you're angry because you don't want to make rash decisions and be messy and make mistakes out of anger when you're dealing with something like this. But I think even in a cooling off period, even when you're trying to heal and gather your thoughts and cool off and calm down and think things through, it's still okay to be angry. Like there's so much pressure, especially in this whole like spirituality corner of TikTok with toxic positivity and how anger's low vibrational and you attract bad things when you're angry. You don't have to bypass your anger. You can heal and grow and evolve. You can learn new information. You can cool off and make better decisions, but that doesn't mean like, oh, I can't be angry anymore. If you still feel it, it's okay to still feel it after some time.
Yeah. And for it to come in waves and come back after it seemed gone. I think that's really important for people to hear too, that it's allowed. because it can feel like it's not. And that doesn't make it go away. It does make it live in the body and even just live generationally. It just keeps going until someone deals with it.
Mm-hmm. You got to deal with it. And dealing with it doesn't necessarily mean erasing it. You don't have to run from your anger. You don't have to bypass it and stuff it away. You don't have to do that.
No. And I think also there are healthy ways to express it that don't have to be scary. And when you can be in supportive environments with people who understand you and when everybody has good boundaries, you can express anger with the people you love in ways that are not toxic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really good to practice. And it's good to understand yourself well enough that you can do that instead of bottling things up so that when they explode, they hurt people unintentionally, whether that's you or other people.
Mm-hmm. There's so many different ways to express your anger. I know not everyone has access to a therapist. Not everyone can afford that. But if you have a close friend that can hold space for your anger and not shame you for it, because, there's different levels of friendship. We all have our friendship circles and everyone's different. Not everyone can handle your anger, and that's okay too. They're allowed to have a boundary with you. Not everyone can be around angry people for whatever reason.
Mhm.
If you have a friend that can handle you being angry without trying to shut you down or redirect you or tone police you, talk to someone if you can talk it out. And if you can't talk it out, write it. Write it down. If you're not a writer, open your voice memos and talk it out to yourself. Record yourself talking it out. There's ways to release it. I'm a power lifter. When I'm raging mad, I go straight to the gym and I rage lift.
Yeah.
And it feels really good.
I was going to
And if you
mention
can't,
exercise. Yeah.
yeah, there's rage rooms. You can make a whole
Yeah,
event
I was
of
going to
it.
mention rage rooms too. I had a friend who was so into them and found it really, really helpful to process things.
Mhm.
I have another friend who goes to acupuncture and swears
Mm,
by it, but exercise running can be great for it. I also I go to a fitness center, and sometimes when I'm really overwhelmed, I go in there and I have this great trainer who is good at kind of modifying what we're doing that day, depending on what you need. And some days I've gone and I've been so upset that he's just been like, all right, let's do stretch, like hip stretches, because all of the deep emotion stuff is stored in your hips and in your
mhm.
kind of sacral area. And that can help too. Even if you can't get up and do a bunch of cardio and do the most impressive workout, just lay on the floor and kind of move your legs back and forth so that you can stretch your hips out. And that can do wonders too. Just any kind of bringing awareness to your body, doing something with that energy. It needs to be allowed. You can't just, it's not healthy to not do anything with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Something as simple as doing stretches to release the tension there. Also, shaking and tremoring.
Yeah, and
That
stimming.
helps. Yeah, that really helps. I was talking to a psychiatrist about this, and she had mentioned that when certain animals experience the trauma of being like preyed upon and chased, and they survive it, they get away, they shake. They shake for several minutes
Oh.
to release that. And she said that she had a patient that was a Marine or something. He was in the military, and when he experienced something traumatic with his unit, they would tremor, they would shake to immediately release that energy and kind of shake it out of their body to help
I
sort of
love
speed
that.
up the process
Yeah.
of processing that trauma and feeling really deep anger and rage. Like that is, it's the product of trauma. Like something happens to make you feel like that, and
Mhm.
it does get stuck in your body and it gets stuck in your brain.
Yeah. I love that advice. Any kind of physical motion.
It's okay to scream. And if you can't scream out loud, like if you don't live alone or you have really close neighbors, you can scream in your head as loud and as long as you want to, because you don't have to take a breath in your head.
Yeah, you can also listen to music, I think, and make music too, or even go to a show that certain kinds of music I think allow for cathartic expression, like a metal concert where you can bang your head, or something where you can dance around, and like a rave or anything that kind of just gives you space to dance. It's also okay to just cry, you know?
Mhm. Definitely. I'm an angry crier for sure.
I don't know what I am. I had a whole bout of depression when I was like 20, maybe 18 to 22, and cried every night, every day, at least once a day for a couple years, which was so much. And then I turned that off like a spigot, and then didn't cry for a long time, and had to learn how to balance that and get to a place where I can feel my emotions relatively soon after experiencing them, if that makes any sense. Because
Mhm.
I've always had a lot of trouble regulating or being, I guess, in touch with my body enough to know when I needed to cry or was experiencing that intense of an emotion, which I do think comes from not just autism, but trauma. I think
Mhm.
that having expectations on me as a young kid to be a mediator, and also even just the expectations of femininity, to be a peacemaker, those kinds of things made it really hard for me to be in touch and in tune with my body around, especially really intense emotions like grief and anger.
Mhm.
It's taken me until even kind of recently, last couple of years of my life, to just cry when I feel like I should cry.
Yeah. It's so sad to to know that so many people have had to suppress how they feel to the point where they feel disconnected from their own bodies. And I think it's especially difficult for autistic people because we're prone to meltdowns. And a lot of us that have had to mask really heavily for most of our lives, those of us that are late diagnosed, like for me, a lot of my meltdowns when I was younger were they had to be internal. I didn't have a choice because I'd be punished. Like a meltdown was just not a thing that was allowed at all. I was raised in a really strict religious household with really volatile parents. And there was just no, a meltdown would be seen as a tantrum that would be seen as bad. It would be seen as disrespectful and it would be punished. There was no having a meltdown. There was no, I'm
We're
upset
also
because
seen as,
something's happening to me internally. It's you're
yeah,
being disrespectful. You're being disobedient. I'll give you a reason to cry kind of thing.
yeah.
And a lifetime of internal meltdowns has taken its toll. I'm in my mid 30s and just decades of internal meltdowns has definitely taken its toll. And now I'm giving myself permission to feel all of my feels whenever and however I want to feel them with whoever I feel safe doing that with or by myself. And it's a process of permitting yourself to feel all the things that you need to feel. It's a process to reconnect with your own body.
Yeah. My my household was not quite so suppressive, but my meltdowns were also absolutely seen as disrespectful, which gives the kid a complex. So
Mhm.
I identify with that, and it becomes a really kind of devastating struggle to put those pieces back together and figure out how to trust and be okay in your body, even in moments where it's not in a societally acceptable emotional state.
Mhm.
I think people's language in child rearing best practices nowadays are getting better at giving kids emotional space and teaching them emotional regulation. Again, I don't think that wasn't language really when we were younger.
Mhm.
So I hope that that is not an experience that's shared with people going forward.
Yeah, I think the generation that raised us, they weren't raised with that language at all. And when our generation of parents say, "Well, when we were young, we had to blah blah blah." Like, yes, we know. We definitely get it. You're a product of your environment. We get it.
Yeah, but I'm excited about the idea of people getting better starting circumstances in terms of emotions and emotional intelligence and just self-awareness. I think a lot of people are breaking cycles, and I think that that's a big one. Learning in families how to give space to children's emotions and emotions in general. I think it changes the world.
Not just learning this in families and with children, but learning this in your romantic relationships, learning this in your platonic friendships, learning to give different people in different interpersonal relationship dynamics, learning how to give people space. All kinds of different people, all kinds of different space for all kinds of different feelings. Emotional intelligence is a skill. We're not just born with it. It's something that we have to learn and develop and keep developing in each phase of our lives. When it comes to anger, when it comes to danger or justice or direct action, like I don't know. I feel like there's kind of a balance there too. What you witnessed happening on TikTok before the beef with you and Allie really got going, you saw something that felt unjust. And you spoke out about it. When I realized something was off, I felt like something was unjust. It made me angry. And I spoke about it. And people are going to have their opinions and judgments for how and why and when and where and all the things that they would have done differently and whatever. I don't really care what people think and how they think it should have been done or handled or whatever. But if there's no perfect way to do it, I don't know. I don't think there's a universal way to take action when there's an injustice. I don't think there's a perfect level or a perfect presentation of anger, you know?
Yeah, I think it's okay for it to be messy and still to try. And I think when you're trying to just move in the right direction against all odds, something is better than nothing. Who says that we can't take up goddamn space? Just mad about it.
I mean, I don't really care what people how I don't care. Like when it comes to people wanting to stop us and silence us, I don't really care. They want to take whatever action they want to, that's fine. People are allowed to do and feel whatever they want to, but I'm just not going to let it affect me. I'm not going to let fear ruin my health. Not one more goddamn day. Not one more day. I've given so much energy. I've lost so much time. It's not even that I've given it so much energy. I've lost so many days in a row of feeling happy, feeling healthy, being productive, getting back to my life, maintaining my friendships. I lost so much time. Not because I'm obsessed with Allie. That's not why. No one's obsessed with Allie. But depression is real. Anxiety and fear, all those things are real. And there are people involved that benefited from keeping a lot of people in a constant state of fear every day. Prolonged anxiety because it benefited them to do that. And I'm not losing one more day to that. I just don't give a single fuck what anyone thinks about this podcast. It's not for the people that want it to end. It's not for the people that are mad about it. It's for the people going through the exact same thing so they can see there is light of the tunnel. There is an other side to all of this, and you're allowed to feel all your feels. You're allowed to respond however you want to, and you have support. You have a whole library of podcast episodes of people that have went through the same thing you're going through. You're not alone. You don't have to drive your car off a bridge because you just don't know what to do. You don't have to take your own life because this seems so overwhelming. We've been through horrible cyberbullying. Horrible. You've heard me cry so hard over this. I've heard you cry so hard over this. And this isn't for the people that don't want to hear from us. It's for the people that are on the edge of not being on this planet anymore because it's so overwhelming. I care about them. And I really don't care what Allie has to say about being deplatformed. It wouldn't have happened if she wasn't so terrible. There's a reason why I still have a TikTok and you still have one. There's a reason why we're still here and she can't keep an account for more than a few days. That's not us. That's not us.
No, it's a lot of people that were attacked, not
She
people
can
that
make a new
conspired.
TikTok every single day. It keeps getting taken down because people don't want to hear from her anymore. There's nothing. Her trademarks were purchased, but she's free and clear to be on the internet however she wants to, and she can't stay on TikTok for more than a couple days. What does that have to do with us?
Because you have freedom of speech, but not freedom from the consequences of what you're saying. So
Yeah.
no, and I mean, I haven't even reported her any of the last few times that she's been back up, because I agree with you, and it really does affect. It sits in your body when you don't do anything with it. I need this podcast because I need to feel like I have had some way to process the whole thing. I have this flare up of I have a skin disorder that flares up when I get stressed, and this has been so stressful. And I was talking about it in late January. It's April now. It's still an increasing problem. It's still a flare up because of this entire situation, which is solvable. I need to live an entire lifetime of learning to not let myself get so stressed out. And the problem is not engaging with this thing in the first place. The problem is not having space to process things so that they stay in my body and I hold them there. And then I get these flare ups. So this is important for my physical health as well as my mental health. And it's really, my whole original channel was never even meant to be some huge platform necessarily. I was excited about the idea that a lot of people would be interested in what I was saying, but it wasn't about growing to some huge size. It was about talking about whatever I needed to talk about and sharing myself and what I thought and my music. And that is so helpful for me. This is helpful for me. So that's what this is too. I don't care either if people feel like any sort of way about it. It's really, I don't care at all. I am so done caring. I don't have it in me at all to care anymore. I don't even know how I'm going to be perceived in any of this, because I haven't even announced it to my family that I'm going to stop with my dissertation. And I think it's one of the best choices I've made for myself in years and years. And I don't think that that's going to be easy for people to understand. And I just don't care anymore. And it's not just that, it's a lot of different things. I think that my entire life I have to live the way that makes me okay. And I have to just confidently do that. And the more I do that, the more weird ass pushback I get from people whose business it is not. And too bad. The more that I just do what I need to do, the more great I'm doing. The more I'm doing great. Don't worry about me. I love that I'm doing this podcast. I am so happy about it. I am in the face of this. I'm not happy about being in the situation, but I just don't have it in me to care what people think this looks like, because I have one life and I'm doing exactly the life that I'm supposed to be doing. And I am doing a good one. I think I am a legend. And if people think that it's a problem that I'm making my own story about me, get out of the way anyway. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if you think that my story should be about you. It's not. I'm very cool and important in my own life and story, and that doesn't make me a bad person. Stop trying to gaslight and convince me that it does. I'm allowed to think I am interesting and a protagonist in my own life and story and tell my own story my own way. Get out of my way. Stop assuming that you are the center of my story.
Yeah, no one that is not permitted to gets to insert themselves in my life story. I'm tired of certain people that have just decided that they know exactly who I am and what I'm about and where I'm going. Absolutely, absolutely the fuck not. The intuitives that think they know anything about me. Um intuit your way out of a paper bag. Try that first. Haven't seen you do that yet. Like I don't need anyone to tell my story for me or decide who I am. No, thank you.
Exactly.
I know who I am. I'm very secure in my identity. I'm very happy with my choices. I've learned all kinds of lessons. I have not stopped learning. I have not stopped growing. I will continue to evolve. I will make mistakes. I don't care. It's a part of my journey, my story, where I'm going. And when I die, I'm not taking anybody with me. So you don't need to be invested. No one needs to be invested in my story. Let me live my life and say what I need to say. And if you don't want to hear it, you don't have to tune in.
Yeah, weird of you to be that concerned about someone else's way that they're going to tell their story. I think you're great. You're a super cool person.
You are too.
I'm mad about it.
I'm so mad. And I think I'm particularly mad today because I'm allowing myself to feel it. And for so long, I've been made to feel so bad about every move that I've made through this situation. Bogged down, gossiped about, lied about, plastered all over multiple people's TikToks, judged, no one asking me a single goddamn question, anything from me, because people just already aren't going to believe me. They just decided I'm a scammer and a liar. Fuck all of that. I get to be mad today. And all I've done with my emotions the entire time is try to create. That's all I've done the whole time. I made 2 series. One that kind of was the catalyst for the whole hashtag viral sound. Zero regrets about that. And I made another series where I was so fed up and so pissed because I had been sent a few TikToks of Allie's at that time and saw all of the absolutely unhinged things she was saying about me. Such low blows, trying to cut me so deep, trying to embarrass me, trying to shame me. And I got fed up and I got snarky and I said, "You have no idea who I am. You have no idea what I'm capable of. You've underestimated me. Big mistake." And I was trashed for that. Like, I'm so done.
Yeah.
If I cared about what everyone thought about me, I would not be alive right now.
Yeah, and like you following through on that threat is not you coming to Allie's house. It's you creating things. Exactly right. I think I'm so proud of this project. I'm so excited about it because I feel like it's solid. I feel like it's a good story. It's the truth. It's filled with interesting characters. It's filled with really important things for people to be talking about and learning. And I would have loved to have found something like this when I was going through it. And I'm so proud of it. And it's really the first thing I've been excited about in a while. I have some music cooking, and that is exciting. But I've been working on that since 2019, I think, when I first started recording that project, still going. It's been a while since I've really sank my teeth into something that I felt like was going to matter, that I felt like, and I'm approaching this like a piece of art. I'm approaching this like something that is supposed to be cohesive and stand the test of time. And it's so bizarre being up against all of this stuff that just isn't even designed to stand the test of time at all. What I'm trying to build a life that tells an entire story over the course of my whole life about the things that I value, about my principles, and about my guiding, my core guiding ideas, because I think they're important. And I think that's a good way to do it. So everything from this project, everything I do matters to me. It doesn't have to matter to anybody else, and it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else why it matters. It really doesn't. But I think this thing is great. I think that this is meaningful.
It is meaningful. And if it helps even one person, it was worth all the work we put into it.
Thank you for listening. Find additional content at doxxedthepodcast.com.
Hey,
Thank you for coming back on here.
No problem.
I don't know how productive of a discussion it will be, but I just kind of wanted to hit record because I wrote an email to my dissertation advisor right after we got off of the call talking about our last bit of our recording there. I just told them officially that I'm not going to finish it. I'm going to walk away from it. And I know that that's the right decision, but I have a lot of feelings of grief about it. And I was feeling frustrated because I always feel like my emotions get delayed until it's too late to feel them. And I was trying to approach that episode like with my real feelings about it. But I really think there's something about just the way that I've responded to trauma that makes it so that that just shuts down until after the fact. Then I got off the call and I was just feeling frustrated that it just, I don't know. I feel really separated from my emotions when it seems like it's important. It's important to feel them. And I think I was even talking about that in that episode. And I think it's fine to have them in your own time. But I'm frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just hurt because of the nastiness of people and of what seems like people intending to misunderstand me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
There's been so much cruelty through this whole experience. It's been a lot to shoulder for months. So much trauma.
It's so much. And we were talking about how I feel separated from my family because of it. I don't feel like I have them. I mean, they're supportive. They take my calls or whatever. I talk to my mom most days, but they got dragged all over the place. And this is what I want to do for my life. And I understand why it would be hard to buy into that. If I just, instead of making any money whatsoever or doing anything that looks productive, all I did was get everybody dragged. But that's not fair because I've been working really hard for a long time on my art
Mm-hmm.
so that people could hear it because I think it's good and important. I think I have important things to say.
You do. And it's awful. It's an awful feeling to feel that everything you have to say is going to be attacked en masse.
I don't know. Usually it's okay, but I really do feel like this has me like popping in and out of hope this entire situation. Sometimes I do feel really hopeful. This podcast has been the first thing I've been really excited about. I'm somebody that needs to be doing creative projects to be okay. And I really put a lot down in order to finish my dissertation. And this is the first big project in a while that I have gotten fired up about and felt like it mattered to me. And then I just have moments that I get the wind sucked out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard because I think that's the right thing for me, is just to focus on the things that make my mind interested in them and that feel like they're important. Because I know that I have a lot to say. And it's ridiculous for Allie to act like everybody's putting me down for being a white supremacist because I have college degrees, but at the same time, she's scoffing that we could be experts at anything and that we could have a podcast where we talk about things in an informed, educated way. That's my entire adult life, being informed and educated about the things that I talk about.
Mm-hmm.
If you think I'm being pretentious, still just go away. Because it's not. Like, just listen.
Allie is not and never will be the authority on who gets to be educated, who doesn't, who gets to speak, who doesn't. Never.
I know that it's the right thing. I know that it's the right choice to do what I'm choosing to do, but I really don't have a plan. I want this to be my career. I don't think that should be something that people villainize and demonize, especially not some of the same people that make money doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, people cannot possibly imagine how very much my entire life has been making art. What else am I supposed to do?
You need to be able to create and to express yourself. And it's not fair for people to villainize it, but those people don't have any power. They don't have any say. You do have important things to say. You're incredible. You're brilliant. You are absolutely brilliant. And your art, your work, it's impactful and it's meaningful and it touches people in a way that nobody else can. That means something. And you're going to find your way. Whether it's this podcast or whether it's something else that you do, you're going to find your way. And I know this is like a really shitty grieving period because you're letting go of something. You're letting go of a path you thought your life was going to take. But you also know that you're doing the absolute right thing for yourself. Just give yourself time to move through it.
I am just grieving. I think it's definitely the right choice. I'm just heartbroken. This whole thing has just taken so much away. Like the whole thing, not just Ollie, the whole pandemic. It's been like years now. There's just so much happening. It's really overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And I had already been working so hard before that and coming to the end of this whole thing and thinking I was gonna finally find some stability. And I just can't do it. My body is not able to do it anymore. I think my immune system got affected, whether it was COVID or what happened. And I just feel like society also, there's just a lot of reasons why society tells you that you don't have value that are just they're out of my control. I don't know. This has been devastating.
Mm-hmm.
And I was frustrated about that episode because I really struggled to feel my feelings because of trauma. And I just,
Mm-hmm.
it's frustrating. It's frustrating to be also called like a sociopath, as if I don't have emotions just because I struggle to express them in the in a way that's like timely.
People have been unnecessarily cruel. So unnecessarily cruel. And you don't owe anyone your emotions in any particular time. You feel what you feel when you feel it. And good people, good, sincere, empathetic people know that and wouldn't judge you for it or make fun of you for it.
It's like hard to even have words. People just do judge though, you know?
Yeah.
Like, please stop. Please just listen. It's so important.
Also, I want to say, like, at the height of the abuse you were experiencing, you weren't showing this emotion and people judged you for it. Yeah. It wouldn't have been safe for you to because they would have ripped that apart too.
Yeah, well, I always kind of laughed at that because there's even a TikTok up from like a week before this started where somebody literally commented and said that I was being too emotional and that's why nobody listens to me. And so then I was going through this entire situation and being told like you're so emotionless and you're a sociopath, and I was like it doesn't even matter because like it's not like I was even being different from the week before, and the week before the argument was I'm too emotional to be heard. So that part was actually making me laugh the whole time. But no, TikTok is not really a safe space for this because it's all way too out of context. I mean, there was an entire conversation on there, which is a nuanced conversation that almost shouldn't have even been taking place on TikTok. And it was about white woman tears. It was coming out of some kind of news story where some lady, white woman tears, a guy, and tried to get the cops involved. And so then the TikTok version of that became the TikTok version of that debate became like the argument was you can't cry publicly at all if you're white. And I started getting annoyed at that argument because I was like, I can see the point but also it seemed like it was getting used and appropriated by people that just wanted to like keep women down, not people that wanted to call out whiteness.
Mm-hmm.
So I was getting frustrated with some of that back and forth and just being like, you can't possibly mean that there is never such thing as a situation. Like, I can absolutely buy, of course, there are situations where it's weaponizing your tears to be a white woman crying in public. Aren't there also situations where it's not a weaponization to be a white woman crying in public? Like if you just actually got attacked in public or something, or like if you're just upset about something, of course there are situations. And there were people on TikTok that were arguing with me and saying there is no such thing as a situation where a white woman should cry in public. It's always weaponization. No.
No,
No,
that's not true.
that's just not, that doesn't, you're not having an imagination, because I can easily with my just imagination come up with 10 scenarios that have nothing to do with race, for example, where it would be like there would be no weaponization going on if just someone cried in public. It just became this weird like cudgel for all women, you know, like it's just people that just want to rag on women come like swoop in there and turn it into some issue where shame on me for crying at all. That I remember getting into that whole thing. This is not the first time I've been called a white supremacist on TikTok.
Oh my God.
Oh well. But it's just like whether it's performative or not, I think people judge everything and forget that literally all of us are beholden to the same system, the same capitalism, the same issue that makes us all performative at all times, all branded at all times, always have to be on, always have to sell something about ourselves. Why would like don't you have nothing to judge? You too, though. You too. Whatever you're doing, same. You're not better than someone on TikTok crying.
And not everything is a manipulation because you don't like it. If you don't like my tears because you don't like me, my tears aren't a manipulation.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's all highly contextual and goes back to power dynamics and the context every time. Because, like, yeah, it can be manipulation too, but it just absolutely depends on, we've had the same conversation about the word offended. Who is offended? At whom? That matters for like what that word even means.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I also just would normally be processing this. Like, I have a therapist, so it's not like I don't even think I have like an unhealthy addiction to TikTok or something. I really don't think that's something going on with me. I don't feel like it's a huge problem for me to rip myself away or whatever, but I did use it as like a kind of journal. And I don't have that space to process any of this whole dissertation thing going on separate from any of the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like a big event. It's a momentous occasion in my life. It's a big deal for me too. And I think it's been slow coming for a few years now, really. Like it really changed. The pandemic changed everything. 2020 changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been like a slow process of coming to terms with the fact that I'm a much different person now. And that, the degree was still helpful because call me not an expert at all day. I've been in so many graduate courses about all of these topics: representation, critical theory, Orientalism, all of these like psychoanalysis, semiotics. Like I did a whole graduate class on Freud and the Freudian tradition and Lacan, and that was all worth doing. I think the degree was always an excuse to do that for me anyway. So it's not like I lost anything that was for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I also absolutely wrapped up my identity in this idea that and I'll still always have been a PhD candidate. I don't think people really understand the difference between a PhD student and a PhD candidate. But as a PhD candidate, I had to pass 2 foreign language exams. I had to take and pass all my classes. You get A's in grad classes. You don't get a bunch of C's and keep going. No, that's not how grad classes work. And I got through all that, and then I proposed a dissertation topic. I had to like defend the proposal. I had to write a bunch of essays answering all these questions. And I also taught classes. I taught college courses for years. For years and years and years, I taught college courses. I'm very good at it. Actually, I've designed college courses. Fun fact. And that's mostly just because they like to exploit graduate workers, but nonetheless, I've been the president of societies that ran graduate conferences. I ran a graduate conference. I was the president of not the president. I was the music chair of a sorority, and I wrote sisterhood songs. I've been the president of a bunch of different composers groups. I wrote a master's thesis. I have 2 master's degrees. I know I say that all the time, but it's like a whole 4 years of my life. So I don't know, that's all worth it, you know. But it was a huge identity buster to be like, well, now I need to, like, I think a lot of people who are precocious young kids end up burning out at some point and have to kind of face the reality that they're not the smartest thing in the world with all, you know, who's ready to impress everybody every day for the rest of their lives. And I think I burned out later than a lot of people. But I also burned out right before an official finish line, which really is just a society problem, like a problem that society has with my behavior, and not a problem that I have with my own way my life is going. Because I don't want to teach anymore. I'm sure there's other schools that weren't as bad as the one that I was at, but frankly, it was a dysfunctional, toxic department and extremely ableist. And I don't want to do that. So that's really mainly what that qualification would have been for, so that I could teach those theory classes. And I don't want to do that. So it's the right choice. But it's just very difficult.
You've accomplished really big things along the way. Like, that matters.
To who though? I mean, I guess I can put those things on a resume, you know. I think that people don't want to cheer you on in your moments when you don't have all this stuff to show for it, when you're not like being aspirational. People want to cheer you on when you're like, look, I got my first big paycheck after working for so hard for so long.
People are very fickle, and people have short attention spans, and a lot of people don't have a whole lot of depth when it comes to other people's accomplishments anyway. They're just quick to judge.
Well, that's why it doesn't matter either way. Like, nobody cares. Nobody cares either way. It didn't ever matter to anyone except for me, you know. I think my family just wanted me to be functional mostly, and like, I think it's nice when you can be proud of the accomplishments of your kids or whatever. But I think mostly that's what matters. It's just a whole identity to let go of.
Yeah.
I'm just mourning it. Like, it's the right choice. I'm just grieving it.
Yeah, it makes sense to grieve that. It's a big change. And there are a lot of unknowns to navigate too. So it makes sense to be feeling this way right now.
I mean, it's scary. I don't have for all these people blustering about how much money my family has. You guys, that's just some alley bullshit. Like, I don't like, my family's fine. My dad is not the kind of dad who sends me money or anything. Like, I don't have a huge income. I'm about to no longer be part of an institution that gives me health care with a flaring up chronic illness that is going to cost a lot of money. There's a lot of unknowns. And, you know, again, this is the kind of, I want to do this with my life. I want to do social commentary. I have so much to say. And I don't know. I think my family's generally supportive, but I also think it's been really hard. It's been making me feel ashamed and have difficulty going to my family for support, because Allie drove that wedge between us by dragging everybody in. And no, it didn't happen in both directions. She's off here now spouting about how she got her whole family doxxed. No, you put your family on your TikTok. I never did that. My family
No
was
one
not on my
did.
TikTok.
No one did that
No
to
one
her.
doxed Allie. Allie doxed other people. Those two things are true. So Allie has harmed me by driving a wedge between me and my family.
That's real world harm.
It
And
is.
she gets to go on with her everyday, whatever she's been doing every day the whole time. Like her life, I had imagined her life did not really change other than her accounts got taken down, which needed to be because she's a dangerous creator. But it didn't impact her family. Like no, it didn't impact her enough to stop doing the exact same thing she's been doing the whole time. And that's what's so frustrating about her playing victim and whining and making up shit about people when she's caused real world harm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do a lot of this is probably just my own internal like my family is very supportive and we love each other for sure. It has been really harmful and even just like people need to not just flippantly throw around accusations of plagiarism when they that happened to both of us when
Mm-hmm.
they just because they're pissed at you or something. It is a pretty serious charge. You don't just
Mm-hmm.
lie about that, Allie. Hey, Allie, don't lie about people plagiarizing things. It's very serious and it's not cool. It's not okay.
It's actual defamation.
Actual defamation. Don't do that. It's serious. Like, you bet your ass now I care about saying something in response to that, setting the record straight and saying as much as I want to about it,
Mm-hmm.
much less the entire, like, and she really did come out here and try to say a couple of times that she never blamed me for the death. No, in other videos, you did. It happened. And certainly your followers did. The
Mm-hmm.
followers literally called me a murderer. So, and then even if you want to separate yourself from your followers, you absolutely pinned a death on me. You tried to act like you were only talking to the other creators, even though you tagged me along with them.
Mm-hmm.
No, no. There are absolutely videos where she's blaming me for the death.
Very conveniently separates herself from her followers. Like she picks and chooses.
Yeah, but the
But you,
ridiculous thing is that even if you did like you can mention that the followers are also horrible and say these horrible things, and then you can say, well, setting that aside completely, still she did a bunch of defamation to
mm-hmm.
herself specifically as an individual. Also, in addition to the followers calling me a murderer, did a bunch of defamation. And it's not okay. And in what universe are people going to just not deal with that? It's a very serious thing that you're doing wrong, Allie. No one else is doing that to you. You are doing that wrong.
Saying that my book that I worked so hard on, the first time I ever published anything, I put so much work into and money into because I didn't know what I was doing publishing that first one. And to say that it was plagiarized, a book that she never even read, sending people to my book posting to leave fake bad reviews for a book they never read. Do people understand how hurtful that is? That she can just lie and people just march right on over and destroy something based on lies that she made up? And I got accused constantly of making up lies about her. Yet my content lived on my page for over a month. Nothing's there anymore. I trust me, I've moved on. But I never made up lies about her ever. And the things that I am still being accused of are all just things that she made up. Like, I wish people had enough common sense to realize what she's doing, how she manipulates, how she lies and twists things, saying, "Oh, they're so obsessed with me." You're the only one here with the TikToks and the stories every goddamn day. Hasn't let it go yet. She made a like I don't even know how many hours worth of Instagram stories the other day. This is between me and her former client. It's between me and you, nobody else. God forbid I change a logo on one of my accounts. Now it's between me and her. It's relentless. She's insufferable. No more being silent, no more being bullied. Like no more of this trauma feeling sick to my stomach every day, wondering what she's going to say about me next.
Whatever words float across her brain is the next lie every time.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just horrendous to treat people this way.
And the thing is, it's not happening to her. This is not a two-way thing.
No.
It's never been.
No, it's not. It's just not. It's just not. It never has been. Allie is abusive.